Hi Shemayim friends, Sarah here. I'm going to read a book for Passover today called The Matzah Ball Fairy. The author, the person who wrote the words, is Carla Heymsfeld, and the illustrator, the person that drew the pictures, is Vlad Guzner. One by one, Frida Pinsky dropped her matzah balls into the big pot of chicken soup. It was the first night of Passover, and the whole Pinsky family was coming to Frida's house for the Seder. Please be light and fluffy, she pleaded as she stirred the matzah balls around the soup. Please puff up and float. But the matzah balls just sat on the bottom of the pot like dozens of little stones. You can see the pot of matzah ball soup. Suddenly, a soup bubble popped and splashed, and a tiny, plump woman appeared next to Frida's stove. Startled, Frida jumped. Her soup ladle flew from her hand, pitching a matzah ball onto the counter with a wet thud. The tiny woman pointed a dimpled finger at the round lump. "You call that a matzah ball?" she said. "Who are you?" Frida asked, now more amazed than frightened. Look, she has pandas on her apron. "I'm the Matzah Ball Fairy," the woman sounded as if she were speaking through water. "I came in through the soup." As Frida stared open-mouthed, first at her soup pot and then at the fairy, the little woman poked the matzah ball with her foot and said, "It's like lead, isn't it?" Frida frowned. A real fairy would help, not make fun of me. "But of course, I'll help. That's why I'm here." The woman pulled a small envelope from her pocket. "Here." She pushed it into Frida's hand. "Just one pinch of this, and the matzah balls at your Seder will be the lightest and fluffiest matzah balls anywhere." Real magic! Frida couldn't wait to use it. Holding the precious envelope in one hand, with the other she grabbed matzah meal, eggs, oil, and measured them into a bowl. The fairy watched as Frida began to add the powdery grains of magic. "Be careful," she warned. "Use only one pinch." One pinch. Frida nodded, but she wasn't really listening. She didn't even hear the matzah ball fairy splash back into the soup pot and disappear. Frida blended the magic powder into the batter. It made her spoon cut through the thick mixture as if it were whipped cream. "If one pinch is this good," Frida said to herself, "imagine how wonderful my matzah balls would be with just a little bit more." And she stirred in 2 more pinches of the magic powder. That night, all the Pinskys gathered together around Frida's table for their Passover Seder. When it was time for the soup, Uncle Solly's eyes opened very wide. So did his mouth. He gobbled up 4 of Frida's matzah balls and asked for even more. "These are the lightest and fluffiest matzah balls I have ever tasted," he said as he patted his stomach like this. "Solly's absolutely right," agreed the Pinskys from Vermont, taking second helpings. "They taste lighter than air." "Indeed," nodded the Pinskys from Florida as they held out their soup bowls for more. Even the Philadelphia Pinskys, who usually didn't eat much, asked for seconds. Frida beamed as she watched her family eat. But then, something very unusual happened. Uncle Solly began to rise. At first it was only an inch or so, but soon he was hovering over the dining room table like a plump helicopter. "Get me down!" he shouted. The Vermont Pinskies grabbed at his legs, but instead of pulling him down, they began to float up, too. As they circled the chandelier, the Florida Pinskies, squealing loudly, joined them. "What's going on?" Uncle Daniel asked as he bounced gently along the ceiling. "It's those matzo balls," Uncle Solly said. "They were too light and fluffy." "And you ate too many of them," his wife scolded. Having eaten only one, she was floating only a couple of feet off the floor. The younger Pinskies swooped about, trying to catch each other. "This is so much fun!" they shrieked as they flew down the hall. "Get down this instant!" their parents ordered, but it was hopeless. The whole family was floating around Frida's house as if they were matzo balls in a pot of chicken soup. "Just how much powder did you put in the matzo balls?" a gurgly voice whispered in Frida's ear. "Oh, thank heavens you're here!" Frida cried. "Help us! How can I get everyone back down?" The fairy chewed her lip as she considered the problem. "They are floating," she explained, "because they ate something lighter than air. To come down, they have to eat something heavy." You can see the Matzah Ball Fairy on Frida's shoulder. She looked around the kitchen. Her eyes lit up when she saw a pan filled with Frida's potato kugel. "There is your answer," she said, pointing to the pan. "Your potato kugel will do it. Give everyone a little of that, and they'll come right down." Frida cut the kugel into pieces, one for each floating Pinsky in the house. She dragged her kitchen stool into the dining room, stood up upon it like a traffic officer, and as her relatives floated past, handed out the kugel. It worked! One bite of kugel and each flying Pinsky bumped back onto the ground. "This was a most remarkable Passover," Uncle Solly said when it was all over. "Tell me, what did you put in those matzo balls?" Everyone listened as Frida told them about her visit from the Matzah Ball Fairy. When she finished, Frida looked around at her astonished family and said, "I didn't mean to cause all of this trouble. I just wanted to make light and fluffy matzo balls." "Why didn't you just ask me?" Grandmother Pinsky asked from the big armchair. "I have taught everyone in this family to make matzo balls, and I would have taught you too." "Oh," said Frida. "It's not too late. Come see me tomorrow. Together we'll make matzo balls like magic, but without using actual magic." And they did. You can see the matzo ball soup that they made. Okay, Shemayim friends, I hope you enjoyed listening to that story. I really like this one, and I will see you soon. Bye, guys.